All right, we are back with our NBA and college basketball recap show. Kind of a depressing one for you today, Connor. Let's just get into it. Carolina loses a horrendous loss to Pitt. Horrendous loss. I believe Pitt was 10-15 going into this game.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff Capel's consecutive wins in the Dean Dome. Pitt has Carolina's number. Carolina, all they had to do is just win the games they were supposed to win. They're in the tournament. They could lose to Duke and one other, and I still think they're in. This is the one they just couldn't lose, and they come out just flat.
Well, it seems like it's just a cycle in the show. You know, Carolina gets a few wins against ACC opponents, looks great. Then they have a horrible loss that they shouldn't have, and we come on here and talk about it, whether it's getting blown out to Duke or losing to Pitt. And the thing with this one is, I worked the game on Wednesday, and about 20 minutes before tip-off, the Dean Dome was empty pretty much. Like, there was barely anybody there besides students. And so I told a couple people that I was working with in the control room, I was like, you know, this is a clear letdown spot. I was like, later tip, Wednesday night, nobody's here, underdog opponent, this is like one of their biggest games coming into the Dean Dome. Like, you want to beat Carolina if you're a lower tier ACC team. And Carolina just didn't come out and fight. The last few minutes, they made like a pretty crazy comeback, but it almost reminds me of like what the Hornets do. When you get yourself in that big of a hole and then you play so hard to fight back out of it, usually the ball is not going to bounce your way. Just because you're coming back from 20 down with 6 minutes left, it's just not going to work out. And it was just too little too late.
It was bad. And the matter of the fact is, I haven't looked at the box scores. I looked at them when the game was going on, but the game, I said it before the season started or during the season when we talked to Bo, Carolina solely relies on Caleb Love and how he plays. If Caleb Love is into the game, he's making quick decisions, making the right decisions, not trying to do more than what he can do, and he's not playing lazy. I mean, that defense he was playing in the Pitt game and the Duke game was just absolutely some of the worst defense I've ever seen. I mean, it was James Harden-esque defense. It was so bad.
It was, and to go off that point, he was non-existent in the first half and for the first part of the second half as well, and we started losing by a lot. He finally comes alive with 8 minutes left. We make a comeback. He scored, I think, 13 straight points for us at some point with like a few minutes left in the game. And that brought us back within striking distance. So,
yeah, absolutely. And because that's the thing, people say, well, Baycott's probably the best player in this team. And yeah, I think Baycott is the best player. But Baycott's going to get his 15-10, 20-8, 20, even 25-10 some games. He's going to get that almost every game, no matter what. But he's not going to make that difference between whether Carolina wins or loses a game. And that solely relies on Caleb Love. He's like the quarterback of an NFL football team.
It's true. And Baycott, to your point, is going to be pretty consistent. He didn't have the best game against Pitt, and he wasn't in for the final stretch just because I think we were running a trap press, and he just wasn't really he's in foul trouble anyways. He just wasn't really in the flow of the game. But he's, for the most part, going to be consistently there, consistent force. Caleb Love is that X factor where it's like he can either take you over the top or he can hurt you enough to where you'll lose these games against bad teams.
I'm looking it up right now. But yeah, it was horrendous. And the thing is, Pitt is not a good team at all. And Carolina's defense is just bad. That's the nature of it. They're just bad.
Yeah. Pitt gave Carolina every opportunity in the first 5 minutes of the game to blow a lead open, get a double-digit lead right off the bat. And the game's probably a different story at that point. I think they had, 4 or 5 turnovers in the first, 10 possessions or something like that. They didn't get a shot off till the 17-minute mark.
I didn't turn on the game until I think it was the under 12 timeout, and it was already a 9-point game. And I'm thinking, oh no. And shout out to Josh Graham in Winston-Salem. He tweeted out before the game, he took a picture of the 3 ACC games that were going on. It was Miami and then Louisville playing. It was like Miami, Louisville, Notre Dame playing, and who's Notre Dame playing? Boston College. They went to OT. And then North Carolina, Pitt. And he said, one of these teams is about to ruin their bracket resume tonight. Yeah. Carolina was the culprit, even though
Notre Dame got close.
Yeah, Notre Dame almost blew that.
It was rough to see from a fan's perspective, from just a college basketball perspective in general. If you watch that game, it was just clear that Carolina's a bubble team, and that's how they played. They didn't want to be there. To be a consistent tournament team, you have to take these weeknight games against lesser opponents seriously, and Carolina just has a tough time doing that.
And that's the thing people say, a lot of some Carolina fans and other people say, well, Carolina's just flat out not that good. I don't buy that at all because I feel like Carolina has potential they can hit. And I feel like that should be frustrating for Carolina fans that you have guys like Baycott, Caleb Love, who are high recruits and should be high caliber players. I mean, Caleb Love was right there going to Duke, right next to Jeremy Roach, whether you decide that's the right option or not, whatever. But they have the talent, and I think the talent is way better than a bubble team. I think the right coach should take them to that next step. And I think, yes, it's his first year. There's going to be growing pains and stuff like that. But Hubert Davis is a big blame on this season for Carolina.
Yeah, and they just, for whatever reason, they just haven't figured it out, it feels like. You know? I don't know. It's just kind of like the talent we have is a lot. It's top 4 ACC talent for sure. And you think Carolina is one of the historic programs always near the top. There's not that many excuses you can make. Now, Duke is more talented than Carolina this year. That's just a fact. But like in general, Carolina should be higher than a bubble team based on their roster.
So I'm going back, and especially it was kind of wild watching that Pitt game when they just dominated Florida State. Dominated. I mean, I didn't get to catch the first half of that game. I had something to do. All of a sudden, I turn it on halftime, 62-24. I'm like, why am I going to watch the second half of this game? I watched the replay, but
the thing is, though, I saw this point brought up by a couple people. The second half against Florida State, Carolina did not play well. They, obviously,
but you already won that game. That's one of those you take your foot off the gas in that second half.
But that's two bad halves in a row of basketball. Second half Florida State, first half against Pitt. It carries over, like whether or not. Whatever, big lead, whatever. That's still a bad half of basketball.
I don't know if it carries over, though, if it's a big-time game and there's a real environment there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's true.
That is a good point. But, yeah, Carolina, I cannot believe – okay, this is the last thing we'll talk about with Carolina.
Yeah.
The fact that Pitt beat them as bad as they did, since Pitt won by a decent margin, it put them into a Q3 loss.
Yeah.
Which they are a clear Q4 team. But since they beat Carolina by so much, it put them in a Q3 loss. So when you lose to these teams, you almost want to get blown out. So it improves the other team's resume so it doesn't hurt yours as much, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And that way, it knocked BYU out of the bracket, which makes zero sense.
It bumped our net ranking down not much at all. I think we went in 7 or 8 spots.
You guys dropped 8 spots.
Yeah, I saw that. I just obviously it helped us in that regard, but it makes no sense. I don't know exactly all the numbers behind it, but I feel like at the time when you play the opponent, whatever quad they are, that should just be if we played Pitt and they're quad 4 when the game starts and we lose to them, that should be a quad 4 loss.
Exactly. And because now Carolina is just the biggest Michigan Wolverine fans I've ever seen.
Yeah. Because I think they're one spot off of us being, because they beat Iowa, right? So they're one spot off.
Last night moved them back into the Q1.
No, it didn't. They're one spot off, I think.
Is it? Oh, well, it doesn't matter because every bracketologist still somehow has Carolina in the bracket still, even though they lost to a team that's 10-15.
I feel like the one thing that was keeping us in a lot of brackets before the Pitt game was we didn't have a bad loss, a horrible loss.
And you guys finally get a bad loss, and you're still in. That's what makes no sense to this whole thing.
I called it. I was going to say, I called it from the very beginning when we first started talking bracketology a few months ago. I was like, if it is a choice between Carolina and a couple other lesser-known teams, Carolina will get in, even if the resume is not as good, just because of their name. And I don't know if that's right or wrong. You can say what you want to. But
let's move on from Carolina real quick. Duke almost blew a 19-point lead to Wake Forest, barely squeaked out, had to get a game-winning dunk from Mark Williams. Almost the greatest shot I've ever seen in college basketball history went in. Even it wouldn't have counted, blah, blah, blah.
Still.
I mean, every Duke fan, their heart dropped right there.
What happened to Coach K?
Nothing's come out. I guess
his wife left too. Yeah.
They didn't feel well. He should be available tomorrow. Let me see. You type in Coach K on Twitter, and it said the first thing that comes up is Coach K racist.
Oh man. I saw somebody say that Coach K, they were up big on Wake at halftime, and he just thought I'll just let Shire take over and get some experience. I don't think that's the case.
I'm looking right here. I think he's fine.
Well, that's good.
He did his radio show.
Oh, then I guess he's okay.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, he should be fine, but I mean, if you're a Duke fan looking forward to next year and you see what John Shire did. But it's the whole thing, because like you talked about Carolina, they're out 62-24 against Pitt or FSU.
Mm-hmm.
And the second half, they come out dead. They didn't play well, but you're still going to win because you're up by so much. Same thing with Duke. Duke had a 19-point lead against Wake. That game was in the bag. When you have a younger team like that and a young coach, that's just what's going to happen. You're going to blow that lead.
Yeah, exactly. Because Shire probably went out there like, oh, like we're up 20. Like,
just keep doing what you're doing. And then
exactly. Don't change anything. Credit to Wake, though. Credit to Wake. They made some tough shots. Forbes is doing a great job.
They have a massive game tomorrow. Massive game against Notre Dame that will, I think, puts them in the bracket or not.
Really? You think Wake's in danger of missing?
Yes, I think they're in big danger of missing. If they lose 3 in a row, they lost to Miami, Duke, and Notre Dame. They have to get one more decent win to make the tournament because I don't think they have decent enough wins yet.
That's fair. I could see that.
But back to Duke. I think this is good because they did finally close out a close game. They needed that under their belt. But I mean, it's not convincing at all if you're watching Duke. You're thinking there's no way this team's doing that 6 games in a row, winning 6 games in a row to win the title.
That's how I felt with, like, obviously being a Carolina fan, I'll always rip on Duke a little bit. But just from a non-biased perspective, I feel like the last few years, a lot of these very talented Duke teams, for whatever reason, in my mind, I just haven't felt like they've had they're not like a title favorite, you know? It just doesn't feel like that. Like, it doesn't feel like this year they're a title favorite. I don't think they can.
2019 felt like they were a title favorite for the right reasons. That team was good.
It's not every year I felt like that, but a few of the last, 8 years or so that they've had these like crazy good teams.
Yeah, I mean, 2017, like they made that run in the ACC tournament. Because you got to remember, they were playing on Wednesday of the ACC tournament.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they win the ACC tournament and everyone's thinking this team is a national title contender back in 2017 with the Jason Tatum and like Luke Kennard teams.
Yeah.
And then the NCAA decides to rig it and put South Carolina playing in South Carolina to ruin that game. But that's another day. Let's see here. Okay. But yeah, back to Duke real quick. They have a big game against Florida State. Duke has to win out if they want a 1 seed in the tournament. It doesn't matter. Duke keeps winning and they keep going down in the rankings on Joe Lunardi's seeding areas. They were the number 5 overall team in the country. Now they're down to 7, even though they beat Wake Forest. And Kentucky loses and moves ahead of them, even though we beat Kentucky. Yes, that was at the beginning of the season, but we still beat Kentucky. The seeding makes no sense to me. And I saw someone tweeted out earlier today, I think a lot of these bracketologists, as of right now, are way off of what the tournament's seeding and everything's going to actually be. I know they're doing it as, right now this is what the tournament would be, but I don't think it's anywhere close to what we're seeing. I mean, and the matter of fact is, if Duke does not win out, that's a disappointment. That is a huge disappointment. They should easily win the ACC regular season title.
Okay, I was about to say, when you say win out, you mean the rest of the regular season. Do you think they need to win the tournament as well?
No, they have to make the championship. Duke has to win their next 7 games to be a 1 seed.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, an ACC loss is a bad loss.
Yeah, it is. Yep. ACC's so bad this year. There's not like those top tier teams where it's like, oh, it's a toss up. No, like you need to beat these mid tier ACC teams.
We play Florida State tomorrow, at Virginia, at Syracuse, at Pitt, then home to Carolina last game of the regular season, and then we go to Brooklyn in the ACC tournament.
Is that Virginia?
You got to win all. No. Virginia does not scare me in the slightest. I think we go out and wax Virginia. The one that scares me a lot is Florida State and Carolina.
Really? I just don't think.
I've been getting texts for the last, I would say, 2 weeks. Ever since that Carolina game, every Carolina fan is doing the complaining reverse jinx of where, oh, we're just going to get smacked at Cameron. No way Coach K's going to lose his last game at Cameron. Do the farewell tours always end well?
I guess not. But even from a Carolina fan, I'm not even trying to do the whole reverse jinx thing that we always do. I just don't. I don't see a way we're going to win that game. There's no way.
I don't know. I think Carolina might win by 1,000.
I think it could be close.
It'll for sure be close. There's no way that's just a walk in the park win.
Yeah. I think it'll be close.
But yeah, no, I think FSU tomorrow is one of the biggest tests, and I think will really determine the rest of this season so far.
Yeah.
Who do you guys have tomorrow?
Oh shit, who is it? It's
We're doing a preview show. We don't even know we play tomorrow.
No, I thought about it right before the show, and now I'm blanking because we've talked about
Virginia
Pitt and
Tech.
Florida State.
That is a huge game.
I'm worried about that. Out of all the games on our schedule,
I wouldn't be.
I don't know.
Virginia Tech is the perfect team for Carolina to play because Virginia Tech has no bigs. Even though they're super hot right now, Carolina is the worst team Virginia Tech could play.
Yeah, that's true. I think realistically we'll beat Virginia Tech. Louisville is going to be interesting.
Louisville's a weird team right now ever since Chris Mack left.
We play VT, Louisville, State.
They're just playing with nothing
Syracuse.
to lose.
Yeah, exactly. Play VT, Louisville, State, Syracuse, and then Duke. I think realistically we should win the next 4 games, but I doubt that'll happen. I think we have a bad loss, either Louisville or State. I think we lose to one of those teams.
All right, let me look here. Oh, and then another thing on college basketball, we'll move out of the ACC real quick. BYU, I mean, obviously nobody cares. It's BYU Minute. I'm doing this every episode, whatever. BYU has to win tomorrow. If they lose tomorrow, the dream is dead to making the tournament because we play at St. Mary's. It's our last chance at a decent win. We could get bumped up like 8 spots if we win on the road at St. Mary's. I believe that would be a Q1 win, which is huge for BYU. They have to win.
Unless you blow them out enough to where they drop to Q2.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the stupid thing about these Q1, Q2s, net ranking, all this sort of stuff. Let's bring back the eye test. I think Duke might win the eye test.
They might.
Yeah, BYU must win tomorrow. College basketball in general. I want to run through this real quick. I'm going to run through the top 10 of college basketball, and I want you to tell me if you genuinely believe they can win the tournament. All right, Here we go. Gonzaga.
Yeah.
I do too. Auburn.
I think yes. I think they could make a run if they get hot at the right time. I think they have the pieces.
So Auburn, I think everything looks so good for them right now. I think them, and we'll talk about this team next. When Auburn, Bruce Pearl's a great underdog, but never a good favorite.
Yeah, I was going to say Auburn might be like, if I had to choose a top 5 team to lose in the first couple rounds of the tournament, it might be Auburn.
I don't think I'd go Auburn. I think I would go this team. I think I would say Arizona.
Yeah, they might be frauds.
I don't see them winning the tournament. And everybody is just saying UCLA is terrible. UCLA will never win anything. UCLA's dead. I love UCLA. Even though they're the 13th ranked team in the country, if I'm taking a team out of the Pac-12, I'm taking UCLA every single time because that team actually made the Final Four and was a half-court shot away from making the national championship.
Yeah, they have that experience. And, like, in March, all bets are off when March Madness comes around. Like, if you got that experience that, you've been there before, that matters a lot more than what you did during the regular season.
Kentucky.
No. I really don't. I don't see it.
50-50 on them.
I don't see it.
I'm 50-50 on them. I think the thing is, like an Ivy League team just might shoot them out at the gym for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. Like a
just
Princeton.
Something random like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I can see that.
Let's shoot. Hold up. Purdue. I believe they can.
I think they can too. I think that is still. They've had a couple bad losses. That is still one of my favorites to win the title.
They've had some trouble down the stretch. I'm all on the Purdue train still.
I am
absolutely.
Too. It's like the college game day. When they put the bids in on each team. I'm putting all my money on Purdue.
Kansas.
I think they have a better shot than Kentucky, but
Kansas is going to be that pick. You're going to see whenever one of the best days, most underrated days in sports is Selection Sunday. Nobody talks about how great Selection Sunday is. And that night, you're going to be watching ESPN. You're going to be texting everyone about doing the brackets, these matchups, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be watching. It's going to be Seth Greenberg, LaFonso Ellis, Reese Davis, Jay Billis. And every single one of them is going to have Kansas winning their bracket because they made some run in the Big 12 tournament. And I can guarantee you, Charles Barkley guarantee they will not make the Final Four.
Kansas won't?
I don't think Kansas will. And That's not because I don't think Kansas is talented enough, something like that. But they're that one. Yeah. There's that one team every year that those guys, every college basketball analyst is like, no, they're my Final Four team. It's going to be like Gonzaga, Kansas national championship for every one of those college basketball guys.
I just don't see that.
Like the TV guys, or in real actually happening.
No, I see them predicting that. I don't see Kansas like actually making it to the national title game.
I don't either. But my goodness, you know who is good out of the Big 12 is Texas Tech. They might have the best home court advantage in the country, and it's not even close.
Why is Texas Tech good the last few years?
I don't know, and they're a deep team too.
What's going on?
Let's move on to Baylor. Baylor is the seventh ranked team in the country. I don't think they have enough talent. I think they're a team that's going to get knocked out in the second round.
Yeah, I think they're one of those big name programs riding high off last year.
Championship hangover. It's real.
Yeah. I don't think they're making another run. I think it'll be an early exit.
Because what happened to Carolina in 2018? Second round exit, right? Was that Texas A&M?
That was the Robert Williams A&M team, I think. Yeah, it is. It's the hangover. And we didn't lose everybody from that championship team. 2016
Duke was a little different because Duke basically lost everybody from that team besides Grayson Allen and Marshall Plumlee. Mm-hmm. But they made the Sweet 16, but they had to play like UNC, Wilmington, and Yale. So
yeah.
I see. We'll do a whole bracket show and everything come March. We got a bunch of awesome stuff planned for March Madness, but I don't care who Baylor's playing in that second round. I'm picking that 7-10.
Oh yeah, speed. Yeah.
Providence, they're hot. They're hot.
I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of Providence this year, so I can't speak on that.
I'll say no for now, just because I don't like a team that's too hot in February.
Yeah, you kind of shooting at the wrong time.
I never like a team that's peaking right now. Right now is the worst time to be peaking, and then everybody picks you to do well because like, oh, February, right after the Super Bowl, because that's when most people actually watch college basketball. They think this team is going to be awesome.
Yep.
And then fan favorite, Duke.
I'm not even saying this just because I'm a biased Carolina fan. I just don't see it with Duke's team this year. I think they're too susceptible to be upset. I think they're more likely to beat a good team than some of the other good teams, but they're much more susceptible to be upset, I think.
Yeah, I think that I'm trying to be unbiased. I think that's 100% true.
If you have a night where Banchero shoots 5 for 21, who's picking up the pieces?
I think guys like AJ Griffin can do that. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about, will they get up for a 7 seed?
Yeah.
Because it looks like Duke is a shoo-in as a 2 seed.
Yeah.
I just don't see them getting out of bed for the game against the 7 seed where they could easily lose. We saw it this year. Like teams like Miami can come in and beat them if it's a close game.
Yeah. I agree.
But yes, Duke can win the title. Absolutely. Villanova.
I mean,
that's the thing is like you have good coaching. It's hard to bet against good coaching, but I don't like this Villanova team whatsoever.
I think they're one of those sneaky teams that could make a run, but I don't know about championship run. Like, I don't think they'll be upset.
Because I'm looking at like 11 through 20. I almost like these teams a little more to make like nice Final Four runs. Teams like Texas Tech, Illinois, UCLA, Houston, Wisconsin, Tennessee, USC, Ohio State, Michigan State, Texas.
Yeah.
So someone was saying that Wyoming is a dark horse Final Four team. They are 22 in the country.
I couldn't tell you. I've not watched those lower tier teams like that. I'm just going to be completely honest.
I've watched one Wyoming game all year and it was okay.
I'll brush up on it before March, before I do a little
like everybody else does. Yeah, exactly.
Before I do a little Cardcast bracket challenge. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the NBA. I think every Hornets fan. Let's talk about the Hornets first. I think every Hornets fan has smashed the panic mode button, the panic button on them, because it is the button's broken because I've hit it 10,000 times.
Let me tell you, I didn't just smash the panic button. I smashed my fucking controller last night because I just could not believe what I watched. Like, honestly, I couldn't understand. If you saw the game last night, it was blatant cheating by the NBA officials. I don't know what else there is to say.
I mean, Kyle Lowry's foot was so over the line.
Am I wrong about this? I don't know if there's some unwritten rule that I'm not seeing or hearing about in overtime, but during like regulation, there's multiple times where a shot will happen and they'll go like this to review it. And then they'll come back from a commercial break like 4 or 5 game minutes later and say, Carolina has 1 less point, or the Hornets have 1 less point because they called this 3-2 or 2-3. They've upgraded to a 3.
100%. I've seen them done it. I've seen them do it in between quarters.
Exactly. There's no set like margin of time where you have to call for a review or like stop the game and review it. That's bullshit. So you're saying just because there was no stoppage that they can't go back and review it? The Hornets should have just taken a foul then if they knew that.
And the other thing too is that like, that's what the NBA is going to slow down replays for. We're sitting at the monitor for 15 minutes, but we're going to stop when see a guy actually, we can vividly decide whether it was a 2 or a 3. We could just have the guys in New York actually say, hey, Kyle Lowry's foot was on the line, mic in the official and say, hey, change that from a 2 to a 3 or a 3 to a 2.
It was clear and obvious. There was no like, it's not reviewing.
I mean, foul. It was like, it would be a whole foot over the line.
And like that play in particular didn't stop play. So it's not like a foul being reviewed or like an out of bounds call being reviewed. It's an actual shot that counted anyways, but that's routine. They consistently change a 2 to a 3 or a 3 to a 2 during regulation. There's no margin of time ever mentioned. There's not like, if they don't stop nobody ever says if they don't stop the game in the next 2 minutes, like this is going to stay. I've never heard that. And I've watched so many NBA games.
And I tweeted this out last night and we were texting nonstop about it. LaMelo Ball is not getting superstar calls, which makes no sense to me because he is the league's next superstar. And people are saying, oh, well, he's too young not to get superstar calls. Are you joking? Are you joking? Yeah. Luka Doncic was getting the most ridiculous superstar calls in his second year. You're telling me Trae Young wasn't getting superstar calls in his second year in the league? Give me a break.
They actually baited fouls too, and they would get the calls. LaMelo doesn't even do that, I feel like.
I don't think he does. And LaMelo for sure flops. But he doesn't bait into calls like someone like Chris Paul or Kyle Lowry does. Also, if you like Kyle Lowry, why do you watch basketball? You just love Virginia basketball, don't you? If you love Kyle Lowry.
The Heat have the most, I don't know how to put this, the whiniest players on their team for veterans, for Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, PJ Tucker, who've been in the league double-digit years, pitching to the rest every single play. Everything Kyle Lowry asked for to be reviewed, guess what happened? We're going to go to the table and review it every single time. And there, you see that one play in the corner where they called Kyle Lowry out of bounds? Yeah. Like, he wasn't even looking at the basket. He was just trying to like tunnel his way at LaMelo to like get a foul. That was unbelievable to me. I'm shocked they didn't call it.
It's such a shame. It's such a shame the Raptors won that 2019 title. Steph should have one more.
Steph should have one more. And that like further legitimizes Kyle Lowry. Is like people overrating the shit out of him. He's not that good. I'm sorry. He's not where people put him.
But last thing on the Hornets, it's been bad lately. And I'll say this right now. There's people that overreact on Twitter and everything, but I will go ahead and say it. James Borrego, if it is not fixed within a month, he's done. It's over. There's no explanation. The fact that we are probably not going to be hosting a play-in game is atrocious. Atrocious. We were miles ahead of the Celtics and Raptors in the standings, but then all of a sudden we are in a fight for the play-in spot when literally 3 weeks ago we were 2-3 games out from the freaking 1 seed.
Yep, exactly. We were literally 4 games behind. And you can say, oh, like we're ahead of schedule. The Hornets are ahead of schedule in the rebuild. Who cares? No. The fact of the matter is we have the talent. We've proven we can win games. We've been top of the standings. And all of a sudden we just hit these lulls and we can't get out of them.
And that's the thing. Borrego keeps staying in these lulls. He's not the guy he's not shown that he can break us into that next tier of being a legit playoff team.
And I'm not going to sit here and just thrash Borrego for no reason because the bottom line is in the NBA, coaching is not as important as it is in college basketball. But still, coaching is important to a certain extent. And for Borrego, at least, if we're not in the actual playoffs this year, I think it has to be over. I'm willing to give him to the end of the year to see. But, like, we've talked about it countless times. He might just not be that guy. And, and
it's hard. I mean, people that are, like, for Borrego, I get it. When you've developed guys like Miles Bridges' development is one of the best things I've seen in the NBA in the last few years. It is unbelievable how much this guy has improved on the ball. Yeah. And also, guys, like Terry Rozier is a legit dude in this league. He was a bench player for the Celtics, and he is a legit stud on the Hornets.
I don't know. He looks like a bench player last night. He had to take a shot in the fourth quarter of both overtimes. That was horrible. That was horrendous.
And then you saw when LaMelo Ball went out. I mean, Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges was the only competent one.
Yep. It was unbelievable. And oh my God, just back to the stupid foul calls that LaMelo doesn't get. Duncan Robinson is whining to the refs about a foul call. He has both hands on his hips. When you look at the replay, Duncan Robinson's got a hand on his hip and a hand on his right here on the forearm. That's a foul.
The one that bothered me the most was the block, or one they called the charge on. That was awful because
they swallowed their whistle.
He steps out of the restricted area while they're making contact and then slides back right before there's contact. And you're telling me
that's dangerous.
You're telling me that's a charge, and the rest are just so charge happy. And I'm not the biggest Jay Billis fan. Hopefully one day he comes on this podcast and we can talk this out. But I do agree with him fully in one thing, is that they need to change the sign for a charge call. It shouldn't be the charge thing where these refs get to just, classic Joey Crawford. He said change it to what the shot clock thing is, where they tap themselves on the head. Because then refs are more likely to call the block.
And the thing is, a lot of these charges, exactly what you just said, the refs are human too. They play off the crowd's emotions. If they can make a huge call to sway the crowd one way or the other, and they'll be the center of attention, more likely than not, that split-second call, they're just going to go ahead and do it. Like, more often than not, they're just going to go ahead and make that motion, and we're going the other way. Everybody cheers or everybody boos at them. Like, they're the center of attention. And I think that's wrong.
Okay,
if you're going to be official, you have to be non-biased.
Last thing on the Hornets. Montrezl Harrell is awesome on the Hornets.
It's exactly what we needed. And people were bitching about, like I said before, I had this little rant. Oh, he's undersized. He's not a good defender. He's not a rim protector. Who cares? You see the difference he's made for us? If he wasn't in a couple of these games, we'd have lost by 20.
Exactly. Okay, that's it on the Hornets. Let's move on real quickly. DeMar DeRozan might be the MVP in the NBA. And imagine telling yourself that ever in your life.
Those years he was getting dogged by LeBron. If you'd have told me he was going to be an MVP candidate, I would have looked at you and laughed. But if he wins MVP, we talked about it in our group chat, that improves LeBron's legacy. All of a sudden, it's LeBron dominated NBA MVP DeRozan and the Raptors for 4 straight years.
I might as well just put an ESPN logo on here. We're talking about DeMar DeRozan, and of course, you have to somehow bring up LeBron. LeBron has to be a part of everything. No, let's talk about DeMar DeRozan. This dude is insane. Did you see that stat? He beat out Wilt for the most consecutive 35 or more points per game with 50% or better field goal percentage. How was that possible?
I did see that. And the most insane thing is that I've watched a decent amount of Bulls games this year. The defenders know what he's going to do, and they still can't stop it from going in.
It's incredible. But, one, we have to see it in the playoffs.
I agree.
If he can be the league MVP, I don't give a crap. We got to see it in the playoffs.
The Raptors were always good the regular season. Never made it far in the playoffs.
I think this is a different DeMar DeRozan than obviously. I mean, he's an MVP candidate. But I want to see them after the All-Star break, because I think we're going to see some massive shifts in some teams after the All-Star break. I'm praying that's the case for the Hornets. But after the All-Star break, there's always about 4 teams. 2 of them usually improve dramatically after the All-Star break. You're like, oh, ever since the All-Star break, they have won 16 out of their last 19 games. And then there's always 2 teams that just crumble, just absolutely fall apart. And my other team that I believe that'll crumble, the Utah Jazz.
I agree with that completely. And
the Memphis Grizzlies are also susceptible to that.
Maybe, but I don't want to go back to the Hornets too much. They are a likely candidate to continue to slide after the All-Star break, as much as it pains me to say.
I think
the Hornets could slide.
I think so too. I think they need a break.
They could easily rip off 5 straight losses, though.
And they've already done it.
The schedule gets easier, though, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think the Hornets, I think they're a team that's going to make that drastic improvement. Hopefully, that's what I'm praying, because I like James Borrego.
Yeah.
But I don't like when the Hornets are losing these painful losses. I mean, last night was just painful.
I agree. And just that
we just can't get off the Hornets, can we?
No, but the Eastern Conference standings, I'll get off them for a little bit. If you look at the standings, the team that I think maybe that's in the top 6 right now that could slide the most, and they've been great this year. I hate saying this, the Cavs.
Yeah, that's another candidate. Oh, and another team that's going to improve. No way they're staying at the 8th spot. The Nets.
Oh, yeah, the Nets will be back in the top 6. Celtics are going crazy right now.
The Nets are going to be the 4th team in the East come playoff time.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's the top 6 teams in the East right now, and the Nets are 8th, and they will not stay that low.
No, we're not going to see the play in Hornets versus the Nets, even though that's a good matchup for us.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I've said before I'd rather us play them than like the Bucks or something like that.
But I mean, it's pretty depressing as a Hornets fan right now.
It is. It's rough.
That'll wrap it up for us. We're going to have to stop early today. Kind of a quicker episode. Make sure to check out the YouTube page, subscribe, like to all the videos. Make sure to check us out on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have all those pages up right now. CarterCast Instagram page, TikTok, all that. Make sure to go check it out right now. We have a massive, massive announcement coming next week. Make sure to tune in. Follow us on social media for that. Big announcement next week. We have some big interviews coming, some awesome stuff coming for March Madness. And that'll do it from us. We will see y'all, I believe, Tuesday. Bye.